Are you afraid of the dark? Let's assume you spent an entire week in the dark. How would you react physiologically? How long before you'd lose your mind? Psychologist Alicia Clark says, humans aren't afraid of the dark so much, we're afraid of what's out there that we can't see. What would happen if you spent an hour, a week, or even months in complete, utter darkness? Comment below if you think you know, but you'd better hurry before we turn the lights out. Don't worry, turns out fear of the dark is actually quite normal. Some animals, owls and foxes, raccoons and shrews, and your ordinary house cat have excellent night vision. They've adapted to see in low light and ultraviolet light while humans have not. We evolved to hunt and forage in daylight, but when night falls, we change from being the hunter to being the hunted. That's why we're nervous in the dark. We like to avoid hungry tigers and venomous snakes. We feel vulnerable to being attacked. Would you like to experience some primal fear? Try an experiment. Find a room in which no light can enter at all. Sit in the dead center, turn the lights out, and wait. Your brain has evolved to generate fear. Now let's say you tough it out. Sit there through the fear. That's when some extremely interesting things begin to happen. So interesting, in fact, that spiritualists like Anoula Sifonios are now promoting a consciousness-enhancing technology called darkness retreats. Darkness is like a mirror, she says. It shows you what you don't want to see. And after just a day or two in the dark, you start seeing geometric patterns, tunnels, buildings that are carefully carved and decorated, symbols from traditions you don't know. You see all sorts of images the subconscious mind is emptying out. The results of Sifonios' experiments are remarkably like the famous sensory deprivation studies of the 1950s. In those studies, subjects reported strange hallucinations, anything from dogs wearing eyeglasses, to squirrels marching vividly through the snow, to old men steering bathtubs like cars. Our brains are constantly receiving sensory input, Sifonios claims, but when this link is severed, our brains produce their own images. People in darkness retreats have reported seeing wiggling shapes and lights, tiny cars and snakes, fighter planes, zebras, thousands of oyster shells that appear and disappear. This is after just a few hours in complete dark. But what happens if you're in the dark for even longer? What happens if you stay in the dark for months? In the 1960s, Josie Loris and Antoine Seni lived separated from each other in a cave for months. Without the rhythm of night and day, their natural circadian rhythms became wildly distorted. Their sense of time vanished. Seni would sometimes sleep for 30 hours at a time while believing he'd taken just a short nap. And Loris reported by the end of the experiment, she felt terribly fatigued. On March 12, 1965, when Loris emerged from the cave, she thought the date was February 25th, 2 weeks off. When Seni emerged, his sense of time was off by 2 months. From living in caves to darkness retreats, the absence of light can be a source of terror, or some say, a source of enlightenment. All we really know is that the human brain relies on a regular rhythm of light and dark to function normally. But, unlike many other animals, our human eyes have evolved to see only a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum, wavelengths between 390 and 750 nanometers. To other wavelengths, infrared, X-ray, gamma ray, and EM fields, we are totally blind. In that sense, we will always live in darkness.